What is up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Your Ex Drinking Buddy with me, your host, Brennan Tassif. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Check us out on YouTube. Full video available there. Check out the merch store. Look at all this stuff. We got all this stuff on the merch store. It's all available on the website, BrennanTComedy.com. You can also get my tour dates there. Every show that I have coming up, I'm going to be in New York, traveling the country, doing a bunch of gigs. So check it out. Get tickets at BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the merch store. And lastly, if you really want to support, go to www.patreon.com/BrennanTComedy. And that is where you can find Tales from the Restaurant, where I divulge everything about the celebrities I wait on. And also a little bit of behind the scenes. You'll also get the episodes early, a bunch of bonus episodes. Check it all out. Thank you so much. Enjoy the episode.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Your Ex Drinking Buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do. Hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do. Hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I'll be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Liz Glazer.
Hi, I'm Liz Glazer. Very
What's
excited.
up?
Hi,
How are
Brennan.
you?
Good. Thank
Before we
you.
get too far into anything,
Thank
plug
God.
everything up front. Let everybody know
Oh,
what they
sure.
can find you.
Watch my special, Do You Know Who I'm Not, on YouTube. There's also a new set that I taped for Comedy Underground Overground. You can see that on YouTube, at Liz Glazer on all socials, dearlizglazer.com. Cool.
Little backlight, you know.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to do this right. Make
Lighting
it as professional.
is so important. I had just, this is not related to anything, but I've been thinking about it, is so I work a lot at night.
Yeah.
And that means that I'm walking from places where people are having fun. And actually, like, I work where people are having fun. And so a lot of times, even though I enjoy what I do, I also think about, like, wow, what if I was off? What would I be doing if I was off? And an insight I've had recently is how important lighting is, because I will walk by a place like a restaurant and I'm like, I feel like I want to go there because of the lighting.
Because how it looks.
Yeah. But specifically the lighting.
Yeah.
So anyway,
And
that's
it's
like,
also a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because I went to Best Buy to get a camera for to
Okay.
record my sets and stuff. This is
Right.
years ago.
Sure.
And the woman was like, well, what kind of phone do you have? And I was like, well, I have an iPhone, whatever at the time. And she goes, the camera in there is good enough.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, but it always looks so grainy.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's not the camera.
It's the lighting. It's the lighting.
And I was like, come on,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, everything is about lighting. And also what's funny about this is, like, if I was high right now and we were having this conversation, I for sure know that the next step would be like, my calling is lighting. I need to create a lighting business. My whole life is about lighting.
It's lighting.
Yeah. And so, okay, I'm going to just jump right in because, this isn't even, no, you can drink water. I'm not going to prevent you from drinking water. But, like, okay, so you asked me if I had, like, stories or bullet points, and obviously I gave you, like, a flood.
Yeah.
Well, first I gave you a normal amount, and then I was, like, reading my own notes, and I was like, wait, this, and this, and this. And I was like, he's just going to think I'm on drugs right now, which I wasn't. I was just in the waiting room at therapy, which is kind of like modern day drugs for me. But here's my theory about drugs for me. So number one, all of the things that I sent you in the bullet points were like, here's a lesson I learned.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Right.
Yeah,
on this, a lesson I learned on that. And the other thing is, and it relates to what I was just saying about, like, you know, that when on drugs, if I was, for example, discussing how much I love lighting, the next thing would be, and my life is now about lighting. Yeah. I think, like, I was a law professor and a lawyer. Now I'm a stand-up comedian, right? Okay.
I'm writing that down. You're going to see me take notes, but this is just so I can
Got it. Yeah, for sure. So, and I say that because I believe this to be true, which is I don't think I would have ever quit law if not for drugs. Mm-hmm. But I also don't think I would be able to pursue stand-up comedy if not for sobriety.
Yeah, that's actually a great point because to what you were just saying about the lighting,
Right.
it was very much like, oh, I'm funny.
Yeah.
My whole life is now going to be about
Yes,
comedy.
Totally. And I don't think that's like bad. Like, tell me what you were going to say.
No,
Sorry.
I was just going to say, but then once you get into it, you're like,
Right.
well, I can't keep doing this if I want to sustain a
Yeah.
career in comedy.
Yeah. And the light just flickered, which means we're right. Which means we're on to
is
something.
spooky.
It's my dad. That happens. I'm not wrong. I mean, well, I don't know if I'm right. Like, that's like my conspiracy theory is like how the dead communicate. I mean, this is documented in like Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters
100%.
2 and the movie
I've seen the
Ghost.
movie White Noise.
Yeah, right. I haven't. But
Oh,
if
it's
it
very-
supports my theory,
yes,
then I love
100%
it.
it does.
Okay. So I do support groups. Specifically, I'm in Debtors Anonymous. And I've gone to Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. I'll drop in every once in a while to Alcoholics Anonymous or like Marijuana Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. But to be honest, that wasn't how I got sober because like I, number one, was in those other fellowships and like everybody I was meeting who was like getting their life together with money, for example, in Debtors Anonymous was also there by way of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I was like, oh, all these like new friends of mine who have their lives together happen to be sober.
Yeah.
So that was instructive to me at the time. But the other thing was that I just kind of like came to sobriety like with the help of therapy and like whatever, but something my therapist said to me, that's why I'm bringing this up, is she was like, drugs aren't inherently bad necessarily. And by the way, I just want to say this was before fentanyl.
Yeah.
Which I think is like a relevant thing to say because like when we were growing up, it wasn't like you could take a drug and be dead
Instantly, yeah.
Right.
It was definitely a lot more like people who smoked weed were like, oh, I want to open my mind. People who did coke wanted to start a business. You know how that old adage,
totally.
But it was like you would do drugs because it was fuel for something else.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I imagine different people's motivations could be different, but like,
I did drugs because it was fuel for whatever.
Me
I was.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. And that's interesting also because I very much like was like, oh, drugs are this like entry point for some greater consciousness and they'll help me to like really see myself and you know I'm scared of myself but I'm not scared of myself when I close certain doors in my mind and there other ones are opened like by way of drugs. And basically my therapist, who again at the time like there wasn't a fentanyl problem and there wasn't like this way that people could just die immediately. And so again, I always like underscore that because I think it's like truly relevant. Makes sense, But at that time, it was this thing where I would like do drugs in order to learn something, right?
Yeah,
which is kind of like what we're saying. And then I would learn it. I would write about it because I'm a heavy journaler. And I would talk about it in therapy because I've been going for a million years, 19 specifically, which is like as close to a million as I've ever heard. And usually when people say a million, they mean 19. I think that's common knowledge. So anyway, but my therapist reminded me, or she said to me in a session, she was like, you know, it's not that I don't buy that like you're doing these drugs like on some kind of life syllabus and whatever, but like you have the tool of memory. And so it just occurs to me that you might be lying to yourself if you really think that you need to do mushrooms again to take away the insight that you got on mushrooms last time.
Because you already had, you got
you already
the insight,
did
you
it.
have it. It's now
You
in
wrote
your
about
memory.
it, you have it. Like, and at a certain point, like drugs can be useful, again, accepting fentanyl, because they can close a door and open another door and like open you up to like different, you know, states of mind. And for that reason, they could arguably be good. But what becomes problematic about them, without infusing some sort of moral betterness to like being on drugs or not on drugs, is when you dip back into them because you think you need them.
Yeah.
And because you're not enough without them. And that was like huge for me.
Yeah, because that was always my thing was I hated myself.
Yeah.
Always.
Right.
And then I remember, I talked about this with a bunch of people who've been on the show, especially people who don't use or do drugs or drink anymore.
Right.
Was I saw what alcohol specifically did to people around me. And I was like, well, that's terrible. I'm never going to drink. And then I was such an anxious and depressed kid.
Sure.
And so then eventually I tried it and I was like, oh, that's gone now.
Right.
Now that feeling of anxiety and depression is away.
Yeah.
But to your therapist's point, I was never able to be like, oh, I can make that go away. I've done it before. Now I can just do it without booze. I was like, well, no, I need the alcohol to make it go away.
Right. I mean, it's something that I think about because I'm now on weight loss drugs. Like I've lost I think it's like maybe between 30 and 40 pounds.
That's awesome. Good
Sure. Great. It's great. I'm trying not to die. I have a kid, whatever. But I mean, so far, there's nothing about these drugs that like people are like, oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure that's coming because it's a drug and like I believe anything that's like a fast solution to something, it's like
it comes at a cost.
Yeah, right.
Definitely.
There's always a cost.
Yeah.
And so, but one of the things that I think about with reference to my past drug usage, even though this is like prescribed, my doctor like it's totally above.
I had quite a few things that were prescribed too.
Right. Well, that's fair too. But like it's above board in ways that like me doing cocaine at a party might not have been. But that said, like I take very seriously the ingesting of anything into my body. And so when I think about like the weight loss drugs, for example, like one of the thoughts that I have is, okay, I'm on it now, but like my goal really is to use it to kind of stop the fire, right? Like just in a fire extinguisher sort of way. Like it has made my health better. I exercise more easily. Great. That's all great news. And I can celebrate that in the same way that I, in retrospect, could celebrate, the ways that being like using weed opened my mind up to like doing stand-up comedy or whatever it is, right? And we can get into more of the specifics of that. But like, now, one of the things that is on my mind with the weight loss drugs, again, even though they're arguably fine, is like, what can I do on the inside of my brain to change my relationship with food, with emotional eating, such that I, in the same way that off of drugs, that I used to do in order to access different states of consciousness, right? And now I'm off of them and I can access those states of consciousness, right? Because of like memory and what my therapist said and the lessons I've learned and all the rest of it. So too, am I on a journey to kind of get there with respect to my relationship with food and eating or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about the stand-up thing.
Yes.
You used in using drugs, it opened the door for you to do stand-up, but you could not continue that. I mean, it's got to be the same. Just from someone who like works out all the time and everything like that, to your point, it's like GLP-1s especially have been around forever because they're used as diabetic medication.
Sure.
But now this idea of like, to your point, it's like you can't just keep taking it. I mean, I assume, I don't know.
And again, I don't mean it with any shade toward, nor any like, I don't have any scientific knowledge. I just think like, I guess the word is maybe spiritually that like anything that's like a quick route to something isn't.
Well, and also just from again, I would say I don't have any scientific knowledge of it, but something that makes you a drug that would help you to lose weight. Yeah. The reason why I say eventually someone would have to stop is because eventually you would start losing too, like, you know what I mean? Like you would lose too, and I mean, people could be like, Brennan, you're an idiot. It just does this or that. Yeah. But in my head, I'm like, oh, well, if I take this, I can lose, 10 or 15 pounds a month. Right. Well, after like 6 months, it's like, okay, I need to not.
And then
keep
what
losing.
happens is the question. Yeah. So anyway, so that's just like, a kind of, in a way, neither here nor there thing, but just a way that my past experience with drugs and also quitting drugs has like informed my current moment.
100%.
Yeah.
And it is, I don't know if you have the same experience, but for me, I have this experience where getting through some of the stuff I've gone through. Yeah. It's very much where I'll see things in reality now.
Yes.
Whether it's at work, whether it's at stand-up. You know, I can speak for myself. I've met plenty of comics that are very funny, and I'm like, hey, you're going down a path.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very aware of where this ends. Like, I've seen this movie before.
Right.
And so it has informed, my past has definitely informed my current life, but it's so interesting to be sober because I'm coming up on 8 years sober.
Oh, wow.
And
Congrats.
Thank you. And but to be sober for that long, but to still have that, again, to that point of memory, to be like, hey, wait a second. I know it's been a while since I've done this, you guys, but like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, don't mix this with that, or don't drink before you get up to do a set. Like, this could all end very badly.
Yeah.
And so it is a fascinating thing to be like, okay, well, using my experiences through drugs and alcohol, I can now even pivot and use them in other regards. Yeah. And it's still valuable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about it.
Please.
We're going to do, at the end, we're going to do the intro.
Okay.
Because we kind of just got right into it, which I love.
Oh, yeah.
But we got to plug everything up front.
No, sure. Yeah, whatever.
But law professor, lawyer, comic.
Yep.
We got to, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
Just a couple of things I asked all my guests, especially since it's your first time on the show.
Where did you go to law school?
Well, I was going to say, where did you grow up? But also, yes, where did you go to law school?
I went to the University of Chicago, but I grew up like not in Queens, but
they have
like
a very
here.
beautiful library at the University of Chicago.
They do. It's very pretty. I never went there.
Oh, really?
I spent a lot of time in my dorm room the year that I lived on campus. Like, I don't know. I was really like checked out as a law student, and I would play like Rick Astley's Z-sides and like, I don't know, drag race it up in front of the mirror that was in my dorm room. But like also understand that I went straight through from undergrad to law school. And I just like wasn't ready for like, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. That said, I don't regret it at all in the sense that like, because that happened, I was able to have certain like financial stabilities and, you know, like things that were able to ultimately help me to do exactly what I wanted in my life.
Yeah.
And also, I think like even beyond that, you know, sort of practical, like those considerations of like, oh, I had this amount of money saved or whatever it might have been that are more practical. There was also like, I wasn't really worried about like, am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Exactly. Which was such a feature of my insecurities as a kid.
Yeah.
But
I love that you're saying this.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, because I took the LSAT. I was going to go to law school, but then I took time off, and then drugs and alcohol got out of control, and so I never ended up going.
Yeah.
But I love that you said that because I've never been able to articulate that before.
Okay.
But as someone who was always low self-esteem, I was always down on myself, you know, body dysmorphia, all the stuff.
Yeah.
When it came to like when I studied political science or I studied history or like I was getting ready to take the LSAT, that was one of the only spaces where it was like, oh, I'm going to fucking dominate all of this.
Right.
Which is so out of character for me.
Yeah.
But I just love how you said the stuff that you had growing up wasn't the same kind of stuff when you were at law school.
Well, it was just like, I mean, because I did it, I achieved it, and like, even though, you know, I mean, the shorthand and joke version of it is like, well, I went to law school because my parents made me. And like, you know, my parents basically like shook me down and were like, you have to have a profession. And like, that's all true. But like, ultimately, I really did buy into it as well. And I think in a way, I needed it, not only financially, which is a part of it, but also like, because I don't know if I would have, like, I'm funny. I don't worry about like, am I funny? But I have major stage fright. That's like one of my core first memories is like being on stage and being afraid. And so I think having like now this life where I'm on stage every night, all the time, it's everything I do.
Crush it, yeah.
Right. But I don't think for me that I would have been able to like at 17 years old, just jump into that. Cause I didn't have that personality. I wasn't a class clown. I wasn't disobedient. I was an observer. I was like quietly funny with my friends. Every now and then I might have gotten in trouble in a class where I wasn't too afraid of the teacher. But like for the most part, I was like kind of knew where the lines were and like drew within them.
Same.
And so I think about people who started really young, right? Like, you know, famous people who I don't know. And I think about that. I don't know them personally, but I'm like, yeah, you don't seem the same as me. Like you seem like a person who got in trouble in class, didn't care about grades, didn't care about authority. And then you become the person who's saying the things that are forbidden.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That was not me.
The line of progression totally checks out.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so for me, I think it was ultimately necessary to bolster my kind of, I don't know, like my self-actualization and my idea of myself as a person that like, I'm like, no, I graduated from a professional school. It was a good one. I had
a very good one.
Yeah, I had terrible grades, so we can have that
Doesn't
on the
matter.
other side. But like, and not that I had terrible grades, like going through all of it, but like in law school specifically, I had bad grades. But whatever, you know, like I did enough that was like impressive enough that I wasn't worried about seeming impressive, right? And because of that, I think that it gave me the freedom to kind of be like, okay, so nobody's going to question whether I'm enough of that stuff. That
you got
kind
it
of
done.
doesn't matter if we're being real. But whatever, to the extent that it does societally, otherwise, whatever, I wasn't worried about it. And I kind of allowed myself to then break free from some of that. So anyway.
Well,
so
I do.
Yeah.
So you said a few things there that I latched onto immediately. I do, because I wouldn't label myself as like, because I have a real problem with authority, especially when I started drinking.
Okay.
But it's mainly, it's a whole, I just don't like, I don't like being told what to do if I don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong. That's like my biggest.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that's why I've been arrested so many times and stuff, because
Okay.
it's very much like,
Right.
you know, they bang on your door and I'm like, who the fuck do you think you're talking? Like, you came to my apartment. Like, what are we doing?
Meanwhile, I would have done nothing and they'd be banging and I'm like, you're right on time. I'll just come right with you.
But it is interesting because that, like in school, I had teachers, because I was in IB, so we had some pretty strict teachers.
Okay.
And I knew not to mess with them.
Yeah.
But then,
International business.
International baccalaureate. Yeah.
Okay,
so
sorry.
it's like AP on steroids.
Got it. Okay.
So I was in those classes, so I had some teachers that were like very strict, and I knew not to mess with them.
Right.
But then to your point, if I had a teacher who was kind of lax, I would joke around.
Yeah.
And I did seek out attention, but to your point, I was not like super popular. I wasn't making jokes with people. Like I was kind of outcasted to the point where I was just observe every other group.
Yeah.
And then I love what you said about not starting so young, because I think like a lot of comedians, I often think like, what if I did the Dave Chappelle route and like started at like 16 or 14 or whatever it is?
Sure.
But by nature, I'm a storyteller, and on stage, my voice is as a dark storyteller.
Yeah.
And I talk a lot about getting sober and getting arrested and all that kind of stuff, but I try to make it funny.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have any of that.
Right.
If I would have started like right out of high school.
Yeah.
None of the experiences that made me who I am.
Sure.
To give me the validation to be like, actually, you are pretty funny. You can like you should do this.
Yeah, totally. No, I mean, right. And I agree with that in terms of like life stories. And also I just don't think I would have been good.
Yeah.
As a younger person.
We see, because I still do mics from time to time, and you'll see some of these kids who are like, boy, oh boy, I moved right to New York and got into stand-up right after high school. And I'm like, you're terrible, dude.
Yeah. But like
You're so bad.
For sure, but they might be amazing. I mean, that's the thing.
Give it 3 years and they're going to be lapping me, and I'm going to be like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, it is really cool, like, you know, to see in stand-up, because you can get so much better at this thing that, you know, and I include myself here, that like initially I don't think that I would have thought one could get better at. Like it's a sense of humor, and you either have it or you don't, is like one kind of argument.
Yeah.
And I think that may be true, but it's so possible to get better.
100%.
And it's like really inspiring, you know, to see how much better people can get.
Well, and I say this because I'm not overly jaded when it comes to comedy.
Yeah.
Like I've been obsessed with it for a very long time.
Okay.
It's like been my whole life.
Right.
I still go to shows.
Yeah.
Like I'll go to shows I'm not on just to watch comics that I like.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because there's plenty of legit, this is what we do for a living comedians that I saw when I first moved here 5 years ago, and I'll see now and I'll be like, they're so much better in 5 years than they were 5 years ago.
Totally.
Or this is one of my favorite things. It's also a little demoralizing, but it is if I have a bit that I've been like trying and trying. My best example is Dusty Slay. So I've gotten 2 DUIs and I was trying so hard to write a bit about it.
Right.
And then when his half hour came out on Netflix, it was a 45-second bit and it was perfect. And I was like, that's how you do it, man. That's it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing but it's like, oh yeah, like, so it is possible.
Yeah.
To like have these ideas and be like, oh, I can make this better.
Yeah.
Which, to your point, you think, oh, someone's, because we see those people who come in and they're just hot right away.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, they're kind of killing it.
Yeah.
But there is also a learned skill to it.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is I remember, and I like to try and remind myself of this as much as I can, that when I started comedy, the thing that was exciting to me about it was that I only had to be myself and I only just had to tell the truth.
Yep.
And that's not really true because, of course, then you kind of get more into it and you're like, oh, wait, but I need to have a
if I move
big,
this a little
right,
bit.
Like,
yeah.
Then I need
if
this.
I exaggerate
right,
this.
Right.
My opening joke is like, it's 3 tags in a row.
Yeah.
It's from 3 different stories of getting arrested.
Right.
But I just, you meld it all down into one thing and you're like, bang, bang, bang.
Right.
And it took, takes forever to learn that.
Yeah.
And to be like, oh, it's an economy of words, less words,
of
bigger
course.
misdirects. But
Yeah.
I used to tell all 3 stories and it would take the whole 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And now it's literally a 30-second joke.
That's so interesting.
But it's like, oh yeah, you develop, you figure out these things.
Right,
Sometimes you twist the truth a little bit because
of course,
it's funnier.
well, yeah, and then it's like a question. I mean, whatever. Then it's like kind of this much broader conversation about like what is stand-up comedy and how do we create a set and all that. But I think that like the distilled version is like, these things happen to you, you want to process them, and you can through this medium where, assuming you can get them to laugh loud enough at the same time enough with a cadence enough that a club is like, yup, you 8:00 Saturday, great.
Yeah.
Right. And that's amazing because you don't have to teach them the rule against perpetuities, right? Which was what I was doing for 9 years. And it's not that I didn't enjoy aspects of that, but what I learned over time was the thing I liked the most about it was the analogy to stories from my own life that allowed my students to understand these core concepts in property law. And what I was able to do when I was doing stand-up was only do the stories from my own life, right? And I didn't have to, distill a concept that was going to be on the bar exam or that was going to be on a test or whatever. And there was such freedom in that. So
there's no test after this, you guys.
Right. Can you even imagine? And so because of that, I know what I was going to say, and I want to like figure out the exact like connection to what we were saying before. But the insight that I had as you were talking was that stand-up is this medium through which I intuited when I first did it, which was 13 years ago, just about, that I could become more myself through doing it. I could evolve more, I could learn more. And in a way, in that sense, I looked at it similar to drugs that I would do.
Yeah.
Because like I would be taking mushrooms in order to like open my mind or whatever it might be, right? And so because of that, when I see someone who's young at whatever level they might be, I don't really have any regret or jealousy or any real comparison thought because I'm like, not that I never do, because I'm not saying that, but like I find that the filter through which the comparison thoughts have to go for me because of how I started is a little layered, because the reason that I want to do this is to to ultimately like become the truest version of myself.
Which is different than what they're doing. So
and it's also the reason that like I won't do anything to get famous or get more like I'm not showing my kid on my Instagram. I'm not like there are a variety of things that I won't do because I don't want to live my life in order to post about my life. I don't want to exploit the people in my family. I don't want to like really, I don't want to offend people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the reason that that's a little more nuanced is like, you know, I'm also trying to like get over being as tiptoey of a person.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason that there's like a little bit of hesitation there. But anyway, so that's a lot of what I think. If I'm like seeing someone who's amazing at 17, I'm like, yeah, we're doing different things.
Yeah, it's apples and oranges.
Yeah, we're in it for like a totally different reason.
It's interesting because
maybe
I've done this podcast for years.
Yeah.
And I've had people on from
I'm the best, right?
100%.
Okay, yeah.
We got right into it. There was no
Honestly,
nursing. There was
I'm
no
really
pulling
sorry.
anything out. We
Yeah.
literally just went
I know.
bang.
I know.
So that is awesome.
Yeah. You're
I've
welcome.
had people on who literally their job is to talk for a living, and I'm like, you're fucking killing me, man. Like this. How are you so bad at this?
No, but what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
No, but I do. Because if you really distill it down, because I've always been of the belief where it's like if people ask me. Because this happens with my family. Obviously, you know, you went the full route and finished law school. But for someone who was about to go to law school, got accepted, and then decided not to,
sure,
I get the questions a lot. Like, well, what do you want from stand-up that you couldn't find anywhere else? Or why did you quit basically going to school to do?
Yeah.
And my response is always the same. After what happened to me, after I stopped playing college football and the kind of place that I went to, which is not a fun place. It wasn't a good place. But basically in my darkest moments, my natural defense mechanism was humor. And I say it all the time, and the listeners have heard the story, but when I woke up in the hospital from alcohol poisoning, being told I was supposed to be dead by a doctor, my immediate response was, well, I've been training for this my whole life. Like a joke.
Yeah.
And so what I always tell people
Did they
is,
laugh?
No.
Oh, okay.
ER like doctors are very serious people.
Yeah.
Nerds. But I say all that to say, like, when people ask me, I always go, well, my goal is to not be a broad community. My goal at the end of the day is to make enough money to where I can quit the restaurant, do stand-up and podcast full-time by showing people who are going through their darkest moments that not only is there levity in that, but it also gets better.
Yeah.
And
totally.
that's the whole reason I do it. That's the whole thing.
Right.
And so, like, I have been posting more, and I love that you said that because I have been posting more.
Okay.
And I feel like shit about it because I'm like, this is not what I want to do.
I mean this as an intervention about your post.
But it is one of those things where it's like you can't, there's certain, especially in the city, there's certain clubs where if you don't have a following, you just don't work there.
Right.
And so there is this push and pull. But to your point, it's like I do like silly stuff, like stuff I would say to my fiance or say to my friends.
Yeah.
I'll just now say into a camera.
Right.
Like I'm a big movie guy, so I use movie lines in real life. So I was like, oh, this is just a bit that I'll do into the camera.
Yeah.
But it's just fascinating to me. I love that you this is your stance, and you're like, no, this is what.
Yeah, but also like I mean to push back on myself too, because it's like, are there moments that I'm not posting just because I'm afraid and not afraid specifically of a post, but also afraid of success or whatever. And like, that's also possible. So like, yes, I think it's not insignificant what I'm saying, that I don't want to live my life for the moment of posting about my life. And also, maybe I could post more if posting more would help my career. Like, you know what I mean? It's both.
I do hate when people just have their phones out.
Yeah.
That is something where, and given I post a lot more now, but a lot of it is in this apartment, and I'll be like, oh, movie lines in real life, ha ha ha, and I'll do something.
Yeah.
But like I went to my in-laws took us to the Blue Note, the jazz club right there on McDougal.
Yes.
And there were so many people, young, old, didn't matter. There were so many people around us just filming the whole thing the whole time. And I was like, just be in the moment, for God's sakes. Like, we're here watching this cool shit. Like, just be here.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I do get frustrated because I'm like, well, I'm not that level.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like getting sober where I was like, well, I'm not as bad as that, but I'm still pretty bad.
Well, it's interesting too, because like you remember, you're talking about movies. So you remember the movie American Beauty.
Of course.
Right. And so most people have like iconic scenes from that movie and we can imagine them. I'm imagining them too.
The rose petals, yeah.
Sure. The one that I remember, which is not any that other people who I've spoken to remember, I remember when that neighbor guy who would interview everybody and keep the tapes, I was like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. And it like really made an impression on me because I like just wanted to film everything. And when I was little, and I imagine when you were little, that was far less accessible than it is now.
100%.
So about maybe 2013 or whatever, when I started to have on my person at all times, like filming equipment, in a phone, even if it was grainy, right? Because of the lighting, it all comes back. I would be like at brunch with my family members, and I somehow got my family members, and by that I mean like my brother, my dad, my mom, who were always very funny. Not that my brother's not funny, but I mean this more about my parents. Because my parents are just like ridiculous. I mean, my dad's dead now, but like at the time he was alive. And so, my dad's in the light, as we said.
We talked about,
right. Yeah. But anyway, so they are ridiculous people in like a fun way. And I thought it was hilarious. And so I just kind of got them used to me filming.
Yeah.
And so I have all of these tapes from, it's like Capturing the Friedmans, except without like the child molesting part. Yeah. Sorry if that's a spoiler, but if that's a spoiler,
I think it's in the trailer.
Yeah. So anyway, but I mean, it's interesting because that movie started because like one of the kids was like, I'm just going to film everything. So it's kind of me. But anyway, so all of that to say, I still don't post that stuff. Like I have it all. And I don't know, like I do trust like my instinct. Like I film my daughter a lot. But I don't post that.
That's for you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was listening to, I think it was Phil Rosenthal on a podcast with Pete Holmes, if I'm not mistaken, that Phil Rosenthal was like, the videos become your memories.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like as equally applicable about a jazz concert at the Blue Note, right? Like just have the experience. You don't know this person, whatever. It's a concert, I'm sure.
And also sometimes not misremembering things is better than fully remembering.
Yeah, no, and I get that. But it's like an interesting like dance, right? Like in terms of that. And sometimes like when I'm with my daughter, because I have a 2-year-old daughter, and so she'll go through these phases of saying things, and then you never know because there's no warning when she's going to stop, right? When all of a sudden she's not going to say baboosh and it's going to be a bottle. Yeah. And like obviously baboosh, like we want baboosh to stay forever.
Hilarious.
It's the best word. But whenever there's like a new one or something that she's saying a lot and like kind of an ism that like my wife and I will like talk about, I'm like, I need to get it on camera.
Yeah.
And I sort of feel, I don't know, I guess I feel a little bad for like the little moment where I'm like exploiting her so as to get it. But I'm like, I just need this because one day you're not going to do this. Yeah. And I need to remember it as if it's right in front of me because it is right now.
It's honestly, the camera phone situation. Yeah, I actually am I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, me too.
Because it is one of those things where there's so many times. Yeah. Because I didn't take a lot of pictures, and I still don't take it. Like my fiance and I talk about it all the time. She's like, "We went to this thing, and you didn't take one picture of us." And I go, "I just don't think to take pictures." Yeah. But then I'll go back, and even in the few pictures I've taken, I'll go back in like the memories or just go back in the phone. Yeah. And because it keeps it, as long as you've had an iPhone, it keeps the pictures. It's very much like, I forgot that we did this, or that was so cool, or like, and even when I look at, like, I'm obsessed with history. And so when I look at pictures, like I'll go to my fiance's grandmother's house and look through their photo albums. And I'm like, do you guys remember this? Like, this is like, Dr. Kaplan, look at your hair. Like, this is nuts. Yeah. And so I do value that, but
Yeah.
to your point, it's sometimes it does feel exploitative if I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, let's do it all.
No, me
Like,
too.
We
Yeah.
literally, because I'm from Florida, so I haven't seen a ton of snow. So we go out yesterday and
Yeah.
we're like, or Sunday, and we're like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to make a snow angel.
Yeah.
And my fiance, Tracy, who I'm contractually obligated to mention on every episode,
Tracy.
thinks I'm going to get this on camera because he's going to be like, oh, this is funny. Maybe I'll
Yeah.
post this.
Yeah.
And we had to do a second take.
Oh yeah. Sure.
And I was like,
yeah.
yeah, let's do it again. Let's do it again. But as soon as I did it the second time, I was like, you piece of shit.
Well, and I guess like it's a similar thing where it's like, you know, it exists as this tool, but it's so easy to kind of misuse it, which in a way is arguably, again, accepting fentanyl, a similar thing to drugs.
Yeah.
Right? Like where there are ways in which like technology, because all of this is that we're talking about in some way or another, it's technology, can enhance your experience of life, right? Your experience of like being a soul in this world. But then there's that that next step,
just that line that you stumble over
in the second take. And it's like, yeah, the analogy isn't lost on me that it's like me arguing to my therapist that I should do mushrooms again and her being like, but you did it already and you can remember it. Arguably that's the first take. And then me going back is like the second take of the snow angel.
Well, and that was the same thing with my drinking. Was it enhanced my experience because I was anxious, didn't like to be around a lot of people.
Right.
I could not talk to women, which was an insane thing because I'm more comfortable around women because I was raised by women. But I also like when it came to a situation of like trying to get with someone, then it would shut down.
Yeah.
If we want to be friends, I'll be your best friend forever.
Right.
But as soon as it turned into like, oh, I want to be intimate with this person, immediately like just and drinking helped me with those things.
Yes.
It lowers inhibitions. I get less self-conscious.
Yeah.
But to your point, then there's a line where I start to abuse it and misuse it. And I was like, oh, this thing that was helping me has now turned against me and become my enemy.
Right.
Which I feel like social media and like just the posting can do the same thing where it's like, oh, now I have to update everybody every single day about what's happening in my life. And it's like, yeah, but I don't want to.
Yeah. Or I have to give an opinion about everything that's happening in the world. And it's like, I actually don't.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I understand that. And I think like I've made this joke before that I would be a terrible dare counselor because my message. Oh, you did?
No, I'm saying that would be funny if you were just like, try it once, but then that's enough.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's why.
Yeah.
You know, and the only thing is except for fentanyl.
Yeah.
Right? Fentanyl's bad, but like.
So.
Yeah.
I have friends that are no longer with us who were great drug users.
Right.
But then the fentanyl came and they just fucking started dropping and you're like, what is like this dude
and whatever
could do heroin
is
with the best of them.
Of
and now
course.
all of a sudden he's just gone.
Right. And you know, whatever comes after fentanyl, because there will be another thing like that, especially if there has been one already. But like in the absence of something like that, the idea of using a substance to kind of regulate, like self-regulate something that's like a little off for one reason or another, you know, I think I did gain a lot from that in my own life. Like I can only, of course, speak to my own experiences. So anyway, but that's why I don't do dare.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it. So you started comedy.
Uh-huh.
I want you, because we've touched on a lot of stuff.
Of course.
Which is awesome.
Yes.
I actually love it when the shows go like this, because again, sometimes it's very much like,
Sure.
ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum,
Yeah,
because the guest is kind of like, what do we want to talk about now?
Right. Okay.
But I want to ask you, because you had an interesting journey to get into stand-up, as you've touched on.
Yeah.
What happens? Can you, because I love little details. So what happens to where you're doing law school, you're graduating, you're becoming a lawyer.
Yeah.
What happens with the smoking the weed and and then that switch to where you're like, oh, actually, I'm going to do this?
So, I mean, it's sometimes a little hard to know exactly where to start the story because I graduated law school in 2004. I was like, 24 years old. I worked at a firm for like just under 2 years. I always wanted to teach. Why did I want to teach? Probably because of some like prestige whore reason. And I wanted to be, the person at the front of the room.
Law professor.
I
big
had,
deal.
right. I had a professor who I thought was cool. She like sort of had an Oprah vibe. I love Oprah, like whatever. And so I just like had it in my mind that that's what I wanted to do. I didn't think I would get to do that because my grades were not good, but I kind of in this like sort of Cinderella fashion got courted by Hofstra, which is a school on Long Island.
Yeah,
very good.
School.
They've been very good to me. Thank you, Hofstra. And so they like basically sent me a letter that I got in my mail at work when I was working as an associate at a law firm. And like my mail at work was like straight to the garbage. It was like nothing. Like,
are you in New York at this time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the city.
So you Chicago and then you come back to New York.
Yeah.
You get the job in New York. Okay.
Yeah. So, so I was like, oh, what's this letter? And then it had like a number on it. And I was like, I'll just call the number because like I want to know if they sent it to like 10 people or 10,000 people. And then I'm on the phone with this guy who would become my colleague. And basically he's like, it's like closer to 10. I was like, okay. And so then I made it my business to figure out how to interview for a law professor job because I think like, and I'm just going to like pause to say something somewhat generalizable about having goals. I have a tough relationship with goals because I think sometimes goals are like sneaky red herrings, right? Because they make you, have blinders on and like forget to sleep and like, because your goal, everything is about about the goal. Yeah. And I think in that sense, they, similar to how we're talking about drugs and posting and videoing and everything, there's sort of this like dosage with like how much a goal matters, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
100%. I've had horrible days because I'm like, I have to get this done.
Totally.
And you get it done and I'm like,
okay, now I feel like
like shit.
Right. So I'm very familiar with that aspect of it. That said, I think having like some sort of a vision of like what one desires for your life at any moment is like a helpful thing because then you're not going to miss it when it comes by you. And I say that because I got this letter. I have to believe that at least some of the people who, when I then became a law professor, were like, hey, how come I can't get an interview? How come this? How come that? In the same way that like people are like, how come I can't get passed at this club? It's like, no, to some degree, if I could make any prescription, like no, to some degree, those types of things that you actually want, because I would bet, again, I don't have hard evidence that like those same people got this letter, but what I know is I got the letter and I called. My other colleague who got the letter and called, we both got the job.
Yeah.
I don't know how many other people that were sort of courted by this out of the box hiring strategy who just got the letter, threw it right in the garbage because they thought it was spam.
It's 100% exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I go through the same thing with clubs.
Right.
Where people are like, you need to ask someone.
Yeah.
Like, plenty of people who will wreck you.
Totally.
Just ask. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to. What about this? What about that? And they go, then you're not going to get passed. Like, it's that simple.
I totally agree with that. And so, and I mean, like that, I can think of clubs where that was also true, where, it's like, I remember, New York Comedy Club is a club I work a lot. And I tried for years to get in at New York Comedy Club. And it was like the kind of thing where I like had coffee with the former booker. I was like, hey, can you like tell me anything about my specific, way on stage that like is or isn't like perfect for this? And she gave me like actual notes. And then at the time, this was when now they have like more of an amped up presence at Atlantic City. At the time, this was like, it wasn't as much, but I was given like, hey, can you drive everybody to Atlantic City? Which, by the way, meant that I was coming from New Jersey to go into the city to come back to New Jersey.
Gosh, yeah.
And then on the way back, going from New Jersey back to the city to go back to New Jersey. And I was like, absolutely, 100%. I will. Right? For $150, you bet I will. Will I do it for months on end in a row? And not like that many, but like quite a few.
Yeah.
Of course I will.
Yeah,
because
that's the thing. Yeah.
I knew that that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
And so I think in that way, like a goal can be very helpful because it took away, like I wasn't, every now and then I'd be in traffic on one of those drives and I'm like, wow, this is a lot.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I was like, yeah, I know what I'm going after and I know why I want it.
There's so many times where like someone will be like, hey, can you fly yourself to this city to do 2 shows in one night and then fly back?
Right.
And it's not even, it's like, yeah, 100%
totally.
I'll be there.
Right.
And there are times where I'll say no to shows in the city where I'm like, I've done that show before. I'm not doing that again.
Right, of course.
But it's like if the opportunity presents itself and it's a good opportunity, of course, I'll be there.
But knowing like, okay, I want this life at this club and I feel like this is probably the closest that I'm going to get to it. So I'm going to say yes to this thing that's not exactly it, but seems like a route there.
It's calling the number.
Of
just
course.
calling the number.
Right.
That's all it is.
Right. And I think that's exactly right. So I get this letter. I call. I interview. By the way, at that time, even my recommenders from law school, like the professors of mine from the University of Chicago who were recommending me for this job at Hofstra were like, hey, I applaud your effort and it's cool that they wrote you. You are not going to get this job.
Yeah.
Okay. And the light goes off right there. So my dad remembers too. Okay. So it's true though.
I went out of my way 3 weeks ago to get these plugins for the lights.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. It's just ghosts, and I have excellent timing, unfortunately, so I'm always going to catch it.
Perfect.
Thank you. No, I'm kidding. I mean,
No,
I mean all of those as a joke. I hope you understand that. So okay. So anyway, so I get this letter and I'm like, oh, I want to be a law professor. Of course I'm going to, go through whatever the process is. And then even when my professors were like, you're not going to get the job, like multiple of them.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, even one of those people, then a year later, I got my first article placed in the Northwestern Law Review, which is like it's a really good placement, whatever, right? It kind of like the Law Review placements like go according roughly to like US News. So it was a good thing. It was like definitely like worth a congratulations. And I called one of those people to be like, oh my God, I just wanted to share this amazing news. And the thing that they said to me like out loud, like not to my face because we were on the phone, but like basically was like, wow, the acceptances really are getting more random. And I was like, this is crazy. Like that's a crazy thing to say. But anyway, so
God,
all of that.
Horrible.
But it's just like I say that because the way I didn't care was so.
You still got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm just like, okay, I guess that's about you, not me, And when the professors going back to when I was interviewing were saying you're never going to get the job, it's not that they were wrong, right? And I flew myself out to Chicago to have a moot job talk because a job talk, the definition is like you present a paper that's like kind of your showcase audition for being a law professor or being any kind of professor is like you present to the faculty and they like grill you. And that's pretty standard in academia.
It's like a dissertation.
Yeah, it's like a defense, right? And so anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm going to interview. I guess I have to do that. And so I flew myself out to Chicago because everybody I knew who was like in legal academia was in Chicago because that's where I went to law school. I had this, room F at the U of C law school with like every intimidating person I knew to invite. Yeah. And I think I got like bagels or something like that. And like they grilled me. I changed my whole.
What was the paper on?
Oh my God. I have it was like something about appropriations law. Like it ended up being like a big nothing, but it was something for me to like present and defend that I never really like did anything with. But they basically were like, no, this doesn't work. You have to change the whole thing. And like, I cried because I had to like figure that out. But then I did it because I was like, no, nothing is getting in the way of me getting this job. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, one could argue, right? Because here I am, not using my law degree on a daily basis. Like, okay, so what was the whole point, right? Is a fair argument. Yeah. But also, like, I do think that having that goal of like, no, I'm going to be a law professor because I need that on the next, like, part of my life.
Got to put it on the resume.
Right. Or whatever. Like, even though I don't do it anymore, it still was like so huge for me, especially, by the way, as a person who like it's actually my second memory, but like basically first memory is being on stage crying.
Yeah.
And so it was a ballet recital. It was 1983. In my memory, it happened at Madison Square Garden. You can't tell me any different. But point being, like, every single time I get on a stage to do literally anything, I am fighting that little girl.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think I needed to, like, be a law professor because it's like, okay, you need to get on stage to, like, you know, I don't know, scab over that wound for your whole life.
Yeah, and every class is
right?
getting those reps.
Totally.
Is talking.
Exactly.
I'd say
Yes.
all the time, like, because working in the service industry, every table
Oh,
I
yeah.
has is like being on,
Yeah.
hey, how we doing tonight? How's everybody?
Yes.
You're reading the room, you're reading
Right.
the guests, you're
That's
every
so
single
true.
time. Because as a storyteller, I can work out bits on tables.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a setup punch.
Yeah.
You just steer the conversation a little one way, and then they'll
Yeah.
go, oh, what about that? And I'll be like,
Right.
funny you should ask.
Yeah.
In fact,
Well, and that's also like the best way, I think, to find new stuff is like something that really, because you get to see what actually connects with people. And, you know, I mean, I'm not someone like in the world of comedy who's like always on. I don't think that I am
Same.
at all.
Yeah.
That said, I'm always antenna up.
yeah.
And I think that that's like a distinction because I'm not performing, but also my desire is honestly never to be performing. I don't ever want to be performing,
Yeah.
right? I want to be like on a stage and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what was happening, but like this one lesbian just like took me in, right?
For a ride,
yeah,
yeah.
like I couldn't stop listening
yeah,
to her because that's like one thing. Just to go back to law school for a second, like we would always have in the faculty this debate about do we turn the internet off or not,
Yeah.
right? Because like I taught between 2006 and 2015, and so you know that was an alive and well debate at that time, and you could still do that, like you turn the Wi-Fi off,
flip the
whatever,
Wi-Fi,
right?
yeah.
And so this was always a conversation because like the kids aren't paying attention, they're not even
They're
kids,
on their
whatever,
phones. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
They're watching the game, blah, blah, blah. Now I
should start doing
imagine
that in this
they're
apartment.
gambling or, you know, whatever it is. Right.
Just click.
And, yeah.
No,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
movie night. We're actually going to watch a movie.
Right. And so this was always a conversation that was had. And I never said this out loud because I wasn't like trying to make actual enemies, but I was like, can't you just be more compelling? Like as a teacher.
That's my favorite when comics get on stage and they go, nobody's listening. It's like, you know,
Okay.
that's your job, right? To make them listen.
Right. And it's like I mean, I'm not saying, because I imagine, you know, it's possible that like if this was a clip that you posted, then like one of my students could be like, yeah, I was on the internet the entire time. She was blabbering on about whatever. And like maybe that's
I was
true.
making content.
Yeah, whatever it is. I don't know. So it's possible. But like I really took it as a challenge as opposed to a threat.
Yeah.
And anyway, so but your question was, I feel like I've veered
Pivoted into comedy.
Yeah. So pivoting into comedy, basically, like I was doing the teaching for a while, and I was sort of like going up the rungs. I had just gotten tenure, which I
Ooh,
think
that's
is
big, yeah.
it was a big moment, and it happened, you know, not without incident, which I think is like. It's sort of a confusing part of the story, but it's not an irrelevant part of the story. So it requires just the slightest amount of setup, which is at where I was for school. Every time somebody got tenure, like in the past, like I think the entire history of the law school, they got tenure and they got promoted at the same time.
Okay.
Those were not distinguishable steps, but they were literally two things that happened, and they had never been severed one from the other.
Yeah.
When I was up for tenure, I had this meeting with the two people who were part of my committee, and they were like, we are going to recommend you for tenure, but we are not going to promote you.
Wow.
And it was this moment where it was like so interesting because honestly, looking back, I think it's exactly what I needed, like spiritually, because I think it was enough of a ding for my ego because I had never had something like that. And by the way, even though now I look back at their criteria for why, what they said was, well, you need 3 big papers to be considered for promotion, you have 2, not 3, and you have 6, I think it was, like smaller papers. Because basically, like, you write a 80 to 100 page law review article, that's like a big paper.
Yeah.
But then at the time, there were all these like little ways of like responding to a paper, or doing, you know, a sort of like 10-page thing that was
giving
whatever.
an opinion or something
yeah,
like that.
and I had a lot of those, because the thing that was happening at that time was there was this trend, particularly of the very elite law reviews, that they would have these side publication. One of them was called Sidebar, was the Columbia Law Review. And I was like, well, I could get published in that, which is so prestigious. Why wouldn't I write 10 pages and do that? Anyway,
it makes a lot more sense. Hey, I'll do the smaller thing because it's more likely to get published in the bigger in the big review.
Right.
Versus...
And so, but the reality was, so I had these 2, and they're like, well, you need 3. Okay. And first of all, I was like, well, first of all, you had never said 3 to me. And every year when I've applied for my grant, I've always gotten it. So like, this should have been caught earlier, and it's like not fair for you to be doing this
just
to me right now.
Just bring it on you. Hey, by the way.
Fine.
Yeah.
And by the way, because I received the news when I was on a lot of Adderall at the time, I was like, you want me to do a 3rd paper? I will do a 3rd paper. I wrote the 3rd paper, got it accepted to the Iowa Law Review, which is a really good law review, was never published. It's probably like I don't know if it's a regret, but I like that paper the most. It was called Getting Back to Work, which I think is a really good title. And it was about like reforming employment discrimination law. That aside, so I basically like wrote the paper, got it in, submitted it to the committee, and then they still were like, yeah, it doesn't meet our standards. Like, I know you got it published, like you got it accepted by this like fancy law review, but like, we don't think it's good enough. Anyway, so yeah.
Well, the Hawkeyes seem to disagree with you.
Well, he is dead. So that person, like literally in that story, did die, which is sad, but it's also just part of what are the facts. In any event. So, and now it makes it sound like I did it. No, I had nothing to do with it, but it's just like a thing.
You know what happens sometimes.
That's like a thing.
It's New York City, people get mug coming home from work all the time.
Well, the reality is, if you work in academia, you have a lot of friends who die because people get tenure and then they stay until they're like 90 years old. Although this guy was considerably younger than that. Not that much, you know, whatever.
Accidents happen, you know?
Yeah.
What do we...
Anyway, okay, so I'm not going to say his name, but in my head, I'm saying his name, and I truly hope he rests in peace, and maybe the light will go out and he'll tell us he's here. Anyway, and my dad's going to be like, not in this podcast
Why don't you back up?
Yeah, exactly.
You can take the left light. I'm in the right light.
So, okay. So anyway, that was like a moment. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm not perfect at my like standing vis-a-vis.
So that happened and you took it in on yourself. You didn't lash out at them like, fuck you. You were like, I'm not.
I'm sure I did in one way or another. Like I definitely wasn't like cordial in the truest sense of the word. But I also was like, well, I'm just gonna, I don't know. I just was like, okay, I guess that's what I need to live with.
Yeah.
And the reality is that all I needed was tenure in order to have the benefit of what would happen about 11 months later, which is that I would start doing stand-up comedy, which I don't think I would have done without drugs, see above, but also I wouldn't have done without that ding to my ego, right?
Yo,
so
100%.
that's why I do think it's really relevant.
It's the uncomfortability that kind of forces 100%, us to change.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would do stand-up comedy. I would love it. And then the school would have this like moment where the dean at the time did a weird thing, according to some people on the faculty, which was that they were having like a budget moment that then was resolved because they got a big donation, but whatever. For this like one moment in time, they were scared money-wise. Mm-hmm. And as a result, the dean made the decision to offer all tenured faculty members buyouts. Okay. And because I had tenure, I wasn't promoted, but that wasn't the criterion. Yeah. If you had tenure, you were offered this buyout. Now, the reality was the buyout was intended for old people to leave, right? Because it's like,
hello.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so I'm 33 or 34 at the time.
I'm gonna retire now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I took the buyout.
So awesome.
Yeah. But so
Dean is just like, what?
yeah, 100%. He was.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, because he was also like a friend of mine from the faculty, you know, and he was like, what is happening? Like,
this wasn't for you.
Right.
That's not what it says.
Right. Well, no, I mean, but it's basically a move to avoid a lawsuit,
Yeah,
as far as I
100%, yeah,
can
'cause you
understand.
can't-
Yeah, you don't want to age
get an
discriminate
ageism
or
lawsuit.
right.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, but I took the buyout, which meant, because I always like to be as specific as I can about money, it wasn't like you never have to work a day in your life, but basically it meant, I took it Feb 2014, effective end of school year, so like June 2015, which meant that I would work for another like year and a half, like 3 semesters basically. But I knew that I was leaving. Okay, so obviously it was like I taught the best I had ever taught in my life, and like I was so free and whatever. Not that I wanted to like do it again, but I do stand up at law schools, and like honestly, like the feeling of doing teaching those last like 3 semesters and doing stand up at law schools is like kind of the same. And like when people ask me, oh, do you miss teaching law school? I'm like, no, like have me at your law school. I love doing stand up in those environments, which is very true. But anyway,
100%.
Yeah. No, because it's like,
It's so freeing to be like, oh, we're done.
No, totally.
After
and like,
this, we're done.
Right. And I love law students. Like I was one, and I worked in that environment for so long. It's my original audience. And so whatever. Anyway, so that. But then the deal was that I worked and got paid like for that time, right? Which was like a year and a half.
Yeah.
But then for 2 years thereafter, so through 2017, I got paid with benefits as though I was still working.
Yeah.
And that was like, again, I mean, not enough to like never work, but enough where if I was a person who had this kind of crazy dream, it was enough to kind of be a buffer while I'm getting
2 years
better.
Where you could just do stand up full time.
Exactly. And also, you know, it was also like a sign, you know, to the extent one believes in those. And I don't like, I mean, I know I'm talking about the lights and my dad, but like, I never have like certainty that that's what's happening, but I just like, I enjoy a life with mystery and magic. And so to the extent that there's like a sign that may reveal itself and it sort of conforms to something that like I might desire, then I'm like, oh, maybe it's a sign. So it was that kind of thing where I was already thinking it, and I was like, you know what, this feels like
this is what it is.
Yeah, like I'm not like, it's a little bit nuts to do this in general, but it's less nuts to do this given what I've been up to the past 11 months,
and to have the buffer, which is such a cool thing, because I've had a lot of people on the show, and it's a lot of like, I saved, went to the job I didn't like, and then I came here.
Yeah.
But I did the opposite. I was like, I'll come by the skin of my teeth. I'll get to New York because this is what we're doing and this is what it is. So you kind of almost were in the middle of that, where you did save, but also you did have this buffer of like, I wanted to ask, was it 2 years as one single check?
No, it was like
over the course.
Yeah, like
so then
salary.
You could budget and you go. My problem is like I got hit by a car when I was in college.
Sorry.
I got it's fine. I mean, I got hurt, but it ended up being fine. But I got a check after all the dust settled for like, I'm 22, 23, and I get a check for like $26,000.
Sure.
I spent it in 28 days.
Yeah.
And I have a bit about it, like it's in my one-man show, but it was like I was in Daytona, I was addicted to Coke and booze, and it was gone.
Right.
So I'm always curious, because like I have friends that are like, I saved up like $20,000, and I was like, what? That's insane. Like I would much rather than be like, no, we'll pay you every 2 weeks, like we've been paying you every 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, I also want to say, and I mean, I said this earlier, that I went into Debtors Anonymous, and I started in Debtors Anonymous like before the end of my time with that money, because I mean, number one, I had gotten myself into an amount of debt. It was probably around like $40,000 to $50,000 at a time, which was like a lot, and it was like crushing and scary. But it also was something that I could figure out through Herculean efforts. But like I figured out like how to pay it back, right? And I think it happened twice before I Googled like, is there Alcoholics Anonymous but for debt? And then there is. Yeah. And so I went into that program, and that program really helped me a lot. And I think the way is really 2 ways. One, just no credit cards I don't use a credit card. I'll use a debit card, whatever, but I don't use a credit card.
I wanted to ask you, and this
Sure.
is not to push back, but just out of curiosity, even with, because you do stand up all over the country.
Yes.
You're, been on TV,
Yes.
been on, late night.
Yeah.
Do you, even when traveling and stuff,
Correct.
you still just use a debit?
Debit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like no points, none of that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've had status before it was on Southwest, but I was companion pass, so whatever. But because I have, my issue is like not being stupid, it's being, and I'm like hesitant to say this, but being too smart for my own good, like literally, because I'm like, no, I'm getting status. Here's how it makes sense.
I'm getting the points. I might as well pay it. Yeah.
And so that whole thing, I'm like, yep, I'm not going to do that because I've done it twice before. I don't know what in me is the compulsive element exactly. Like I know enough that I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I've been through it twice before and I'm not going to do it again.
Of course.
My wife does have a credit card. And so in a way, like marriage has gotten me out of it in a way, but also it's like for the most part, like well,
and you can still get status without the payment method.
Right,
like
right.
I have a Delta's mile or I have a Delta, like, the code for the Sky Miles or whatever. And it's like, it's not linked to any specific card. It's linked to the purchases that I made.
Yeah,
so
I do that too for United. But like, I know, like I look at my United number, which is like, whatever it is, like 9,000 something miles. And I'm like, I could be killing this miles game right now if I didn't have these restrictions placed on me. But also I'm like fine with it because it's just better.
It is, and it's like you said, it's the landscape.
Yeah,
it's
right.
for the best.
Totally. So there's that. But yeah, like I don't remember what the question was.
So we were talking about having the money, being able to go into stand up full time.
Oh yeah.
And so my question, I kind of pivoted to how you were able to make the money last, but then you were explaining that between DA and then also between getting the payments on a regular basis.
Yeah, totally.
So for those 2 years, did you just buckle down and just stand up?
Yeah. I mean, I took acting class also, but like very much I was like, I'm going to work at getting better at this thing.
Yeah. What it was this is something that I'm curious about because we've kind of danced around it.
Sure.
What was the first time where you did stand up?
Yeah. So that was, okay. So there's sort of two answers to this question. One is, well, because I'm fine to tell the story, but it is in my special. So to the extent, wait. No, so, watch my special. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's called Do You Know Who I'm Not? And it is the second to last bit of the special. That's a story about the literal first time I did stand up.
Okay.
And I almost got fired. Okay. And so it was at school. It was in class. Okay, fine. But the like time that I was supposed to do stand up that really, was the time that like affected me profoundly in the sense that I was like, oh, this is like what I want to do forever was March 5th, 2013. Mm-hmm. And it was, I had taken an improv class because I had got, I didn't get promoted. I went to Chicago for a visit because that's like a normal thing you can do as a professor is like visit somewhere else and you still like have your job when you come home. And so I took an improv class because I was like away in Chicago.
Best place to do it.
Yeah, totally. And I knew about improv in Chicago from going to law school in Chicago as a student. And anyway, so I took this improv class and there was this teacher, Lindsay Haley, who's amazing.
Shout out Lindsay Haley.
Oh my God, the best. And she embodied for me a fearlessness that I was like, oh my God, that is just like the most like attractive, but also just like I want to have that for myself. And so in addition to being a great teacher, just also modeled this like absolute like, I don't know, boldness in performance, but also like life.
That's awesome.
In my estimation of her, based on her teaching and performance that I watched and stuff like that. And so she really had a big effect on me. And she was the one who was like, hey, I think you should like do stand up. And I was like, wait, what? And at first I was like, no, and she's like, well, I would give you a spot on a show that I'm producing. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, no, thank you, whatever. And she was like, well, a lot of people would want what I'm offering. And I really like things that a lot of people would want.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then
Little status. Here we go.
yeah, I was like, okay, fine, if you say so. And so I did it and I loved it. And like, you know, it was basically like having a professional orgasm. That was what I told my therapist that it was. And if anyone doesn't know what a professional orgasm is, it's basically a regular orgasm, but I was 100% sure that it happened. And so I basically was like, this has got to be it. Like, I have to do whatever it is that's, and when I think about what that was, like what caused that moment, sure, laughs, but like even more than that, it was just the ability to really just go out there and like all I had to be was myself.
Yeah.
And again, the footnotes are what happens the next few years as you're actually trying to get better at comedy, where you simultaneously get better, but you also get worse because you get better in the sense that you know how to make the laughs happen at certain cadences and they're louder and you want it from an 8 to a 10 and you can do all these technical aspects, but you get worse because the thing that you had, maybe, at least this was true in my instance, at the very first time was that kind of unadulterated yourselfness.
Vulnerability.
Right.
Yeah. And
The
you
vulnerability.
we do lose that
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
It is interesting because
And hopefully you get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
I've been around people
Right.
who don't have the best sense of humor.
Yeah.
And I'll make them laugh.
Yeah.
And then someone will turn and be like, oh, you got him to laugh. And I go, yeah, I did it on purpose. Like,
Right.
This was planned
Yeah.
from, you remember 8 sentences ago when I changed
Yeah.
the subject? I saw this coming from a mile away.
Right.
But to your point, it's like, yeah, it's not
Right.
it's not natural. It's not it's
Yeah.
like, I planned this from like 10 minutes ago.
Right.
Like,
Totally.
I was going to weave the conversation to
Yeah.
get him to say something to bam, hit him.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Which
100%.
is where it can go. But
Yeah.
like you said, finding that vulnerability again.
Yeah, totally.
Which is something that's now being in the, because where I am is I'm much better at stand-up than I
Yeah.
was before.
Sure.
But I'm also getting back to like, even saying it out loud on stage, being like,
Yeah.
I'm actually going to be real vulnerable with everybody
Yes.
right now. Because this is
Yeah.
a true story. And I often think like, don't say this on stage, but I think it's funny. So I'm going to
Right.
say it. And then
Yeah.
everyone kind of like straps in and they're like, we're listening.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's the beauty of like when I had this last night, and you know, it was New York Comedy Club, Gramercy, which is my favorite room,
Best-
hands
such a
down
good
in the
club.
city. Just like that with like, you know, it doesn't even have to be that many people, although if it is full, I mean, it's just amazing.
Yeah.
And so it was like such a crowd that was like down for whatever. And of course, like you never want to abuse that, and you want to understand, like, you know, I'm here. It's like a 7:35 spot. Like that's amazing that I got to this point that I have this spot. And also I want to try something because they're so good.
Yeah.
And so I was able to like, you know, weave in certain ways that I don't always because they were so down. And that's the best because I feel like there's sort of this Venn diagram, and like I have this like way of living where I get points that I don't count. Like I don't know the tally of the points,
Yeah.
but like if I park for free, that's points, right?
Yeah.
And if I don't know, like if I take my clothes out to wear straight from the laundry and I skip the step of folding them, points. Right? But like there's no accounting for the points. But anyway, so I feel like I get more points.
That's the title of the episode.
Oh, fun.
No accounting for the point.
Yeah. But I perfect for tax season. So I get more points if I'm funniest and truest.
Yeah.
Right? And if both can exist and they're the most amount of truth and the most amount of funny. And obviously it's not going to be a circle on top of a circle, but if it's like there's only a little sliver of like a
Bonus points.
yeah, exactly. Because of course, like in order to make a joke, there has to be slight exaggeration, I think.
That's how it,
right?
yeah. No, you're 100%
Yeah.
right.
But the minimal you can do of that part, the more points.
It's so much fun when
Yeah.
I'm almost entirely true and
Yeah.
it crushes and you're like,
yes. And that's this feeling of like, oh my God, I can use this art form as a medium through which to know my truest, deepest self.
Yep.
Right?
and others connect with that.
Yeah.
Which
exactly.
is a huge thing because it's like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not alone.
Right.
This was awesome.
It really was, Brennan.
Plug
Thank
everything
you.
up.
Yeah.
Plug everything.
Sure.
Let them know where everything's at.
So I should introduce myself. It being the end of the episode, I'm Liz Glazer. I know.
We're going to pause for a second, then we're going to do the
Okay,
intro.
fine. Okay, fine. But just know when you watch that intro, we did it after, okay? We were really warm when we did that intro. But to plug the stuff, I'm at Liz Glazer on everything. You know what? Be old school. Just Google me and like go to page 17, right? Like, why not? Then you can see
Find the MySpace.
other law professor who has my same name.
Really?
Who's not me. Yes. Who, by the way, when she got appointed to some like office of the mayor, there was a front page New York Law Journal article all about her, all of her credentials, everything only about that Elizabeth Glazer picture, me. That happened. So anyway, and did I get colleagues who wrote to me that day asking for a job? You bet I did. So, okay. Anyway, I am Liz Glazer, okay? And I'm at Liz Glazer on like all socials, whatever. I'm most active on Instagram. You can go to my website. It's Dear Liz Glazer. But YouTube, here are a couple of things. One, I have a special called Do You Know Who I'm Not? Watch it. It's very good. My friend Josh Edelman directed it. There's also, I just taped a set with Comedy Underground Overground that is there too.
Beautiful.
And I'm collabed on that, but like there's a lot of stuff and you could watch it. But I would say the special, the Comedy Underground Overground, I have a Tonight Show set, I have a Don't Tell set. Those are, you know, the main things.
Crushing.
Thank you, Brennan.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening.
Now we're going to do the intro.
At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. I'll be in Connecticut, New Haven next week, so come check it out there. And yeah, we're doing it.
We are.
Get your merch. We'll talk to y'all next week. Boom.
That's good.